wife was pretty angry at that time. And not anything unusual, but got upset with the business partner, went into the other room. I'm like, I just need to lay down.
Mm.
And I did that. And the moment I laid on my back, my stomach arched in the air like an upside down U. And I was locked in position, full of electricity. And I could feel this heat in my abdomen. And I could just feel the swirling happening. And something came out of my abdomen. Now, I had no idea what it was, right? But I know it lasted for about 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, and I passed out and I woke up the next day. Now, what I had is better described as a spiritual transformation event versus an NDE. So an NDE, the tunnel
Hmm.
would open, you would go over, you would have an experience. Maybe it's a healing, maybe it's an awareness. For me, none of that happened. I later found out that the idea of the tunnel opening, but I had a future version of me come through the tunnel and step into my field.
Ah,
Right. Now,
okay.
I didn't know that at the time. I had no awareness. And in fact, most of my journey has been kind of uh, over veil of myself. Like everything for me kind of moves forward. But the next day I woke up, I was a little bit more peaceful. And what happened is this aspect that came over, he had me on the computer immediately.
Hmm.
What just happened? What was that feeling? What is spirituality? What is a chakra? What is an aura? The basic foundations because I had none of that. And it became an obsession. So not only an obsession, but what happened here is I lost interest in computers. Now, I I'm self-taught. I built 3 companies, sold early acquisition startups to Silicon Valley. I was that guy, 7 patents, all of these things, and all of a sudden I had no interest in my career. So, book after book, trying to understand, and I ended up coming across a book on healing, energy healing,
Hmm.
right? And I'm like, oh, there's exercises in this. And sure enough, I started doing those basic exercises, and those people around me were expressing that there were some results. Now, it wasn't as amazing as it is now in terms of the how rapid I can move energy. But back then it was just like, wow, Reiki actually works. Those type of things. So I did this more and more and more, and more results started happening.
Hmm.
It got to the point where it was undeniable.
Hmm.
So the story is about a 7-year process up until now. And I'm going to cut to the really good pieces here. All right. But as we move through our own journey, there are certain pivotable events that take place, right? And they shift everything about you almost in an instant. So in April 2023, so it was about 5 years after that had happened. Now I was already beginning to see multidimensionality and, seeing the body and things like this. I was actually performing events. But April 1st, 2023, I had somebody do a session on me. And that day, 12 more came in through that process. So now I've got 13 of these soul aspects that are in my field, and my healing ability, my intuition, my guidance turned on.
Hmm.
Deeper, faster, stronger. Fast forward later that year, December 12th, 12 I get this little message that says, Ken, go meditate. Now, I don't have a meditation practice. I don't have a spiritual practice. I just show up and I'm doing the thing I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, so I go in the closet. And as soon as I sat in that chair, I'm locked in position. I can't move my body. And that lasted for 15 minutes. But the moment that happened, I could feel this intense energy coming down through the crown. And now I'm starting to ask questions like, what's going on? Who are you? And I get this message. We're a little busy. We'll get with you in a few minutes. And they immediately turned off my ability to process thoughts. So I know when we're in meditation, what is the goal? Silence the mind. Well, I had that for 13 minutes.
Wow.
So yeah, and at the end of it, it turned out that that was the day my higher self stepped into my physical body.
Ah, wow.
Three
Higher
week,
self comes
the
in.
higher self stepped
Okay.
into the physical human vessel,
Yeah.
and everything changed. My life changed. 3 weeks later, he had me asking for a divorce. Now, I'd been married for 17 years, beautiful marriage. It wasn't like there was struggle, but within 3 months of December, I had sold my race cars, my classic cars. I put my beautiful home up for sale. My life was really good. Gave away everything else, and I found
Wow.
myself in Mexico for 6 months. Now, I don't speak Spanish. I've never been out of the country. And I'm in Mexico, and in April, yeah, 12 months ago, I had nine more step into my field. So now I'm sitting here with 22 different soul aspects in my field. Now, I'm not really communicating with them. It's not like I'm able to pick them out individually, right? But as I say, every psychic needs a psychic, every healer needs a healer. We're all here to help each other, and it takes somebody else to look at us to help us understand what's happening,
Right.
right? I found out that those essences
Mm,
were all divine beings. They were ascended masters. I
mm.
ended up with four oversouls in my body, right? I say my body, we're referring to the energetic field that's in the body. I ended up with 10 Christed ETs, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So, and then I ended up with all the archangels in my field. So in July 2024, so 9 months ago, I get the message, Ken, go do a Cambo and a Bufo. Now, I don't like medicines. I don't like plant medicines. I don't like hallucinogens, but I get the message and I go do it. And I did them within 2 hours of each other. So for your audience, what the Cambo does is it opens up the cells of your body and does a rapid detox. So while the cells of my body were opened, the Bufo is that DMT, I guess they call it the God molecule, right? This is the thing that we release on birth and on death. It's also called the ego death. So,
Yes.
and that's exactly what happened.
Mm.
As I'm doing this Bufo, I see my ego being walked out by two souls, and he was not happy. But he was not happy at all. So during the Bufo, what happened is as the cells of the body were opened and the ego was gone, those 22 moved out of the field and into the body.
Ah, they were around you and now they came in.
Now they're in the physical body. So I'm
Yes.
a soul infusion now.
Wow.
My soul, Ken, has these other divine beings that operate with me and they talk to me. I mean, anytime I ask a question, they're there. There is no dropping in and connecting to this. They are literally here all the time.
Wow. So when I ask you questions or we get questions today from our audience, who's answering? Or is it the collective answering? Is it
It's both of
part?
us.
Okay, very interesting. So I mean,
Yeah,
see
and
this
it's
one.
confusing. And I've asked them, I'm like, listen, will you
Yeah.
please change your voice or
Yeah.
frequency so that the two can play? I mean, so people understand whether it's me. And even for me right now, so I just had another amazing thing happen.
Okay.
Let me kind of explain this thing with me. I'm never going to stop transformation.
Yeah.
A lot of us will spend our life trying to get to that next spiritual goal or level
Mm.
or awareness.
Hmm.
They're dragging me by the short collar through this whole process. So in February this year, I wake up and I can't animate my body. And not only can I animate my body, but my emotions are void. It's very different when there's a void there. So what was happening is I woke up in the middle of the team replacing my chakras, all my energy
Mm.
layers and my holographic template with ones that could now sustain these higher frequencies. They are preparing
Oh,
me for what's happening today. And I
right.
don't necessarily mean this call. So, um,
Mm.
2 weeks ago, I wake up at 3 a.m. and I get this message. Hey, how are you? I'm having a conversation. I'm like, who are you? He's like, you know who I am? I'm like, oh, you're him. So yeah, the great divine director who I didn't know anything about 2 months ago has, as he says, I'm moving your furniture around. We're going to share rent for a while. He's also moved into the physical body. Yeah, he's the guy I report to.
Yeah.
And also all of the collective also report to the great divine director. So he's 2 weeks away from being fully integrated. And this is why my body's full of static right now.
Wow. Wow.
So
Okay. This is amazing. And as I said with it to everyone, I said we really haven't had anyone like Ken on that I can remember. And I'm especially interested in the fact that there's this interplay between you and these ascended beings in this soul infusion collective of wisdom. Now, what's going to be very interesting is how we kind of look at energy in the bodies and some of the people here today. One of the things I want to ask you about is physical and emotional pain. You see it as originating, or they have shown it to you as originating all from energy interference. I know there's a lot of people here with things they want to resolve, including myself. We all have things to work on. Tell me a little bit more about how this is now being shown to you in this collective.
So my collective changes the way I see things
Yeah.
every 3 or 4 weeks. It continues to shift for me. Now, I have no modality, folks. Like, I don't have a script when I do my thing. I just show up. So when we talk about energy interference, it's a broad term to
Okay.
say energy that is interfering with your ascension, energy that
Makes
is
sense.
interfering with your healing, energy that's interfering with you growing spiritually. So it's a broad term. Now, when I see energy, it's not just colors I see, it's the consciousness of the energy. I'm having light language conferences, light language communication with your organs, with your chakras, with your higher selves, your teams, your ET collectives, the entire broad spectrum. I see it all. And I'm able
Mm.
to communicate with them in such a way that I'm like, you got to step out. And they do. So for me, it's very, very different. And again, it changes every couple of weeks. Now I'm seeing the consciousness of viruses in a visual
Mm.
form, and I
Mhm.
pull that consciousness out, and then the energy just falls away.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking about different situations and things. So tell me a little bit about like emotional pains. How would they see, you kind of showed me how you see virus. How would they see emotional pain or trauma or something that is lingering in the body as a density?
So what happens here is as soon as I connect with you and you say, listen, I have trauma, right?
Mm.
When I go into the heart and I talk to the heart will give me the emotion that you're experiencing in words. Grief, loss of love, unable to love itself, whatever these things are. And then what happens is the heart will open up and it'll just pour out. And the person can feel this lightness leaving their body. One of the things my team and I don't do is get into the story.
Right. None of us want this story
We none
anymore.
of us
Yeah.
want the
We've
story.
had
And
it, man.
honestly, I've when you start asking someone, hey, tell me about that past life and why was I in that situation? Why was I wearing my hair in that color? It brings it right back in.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I can see the trapped emotions in the body as energy as well. And these are the speckles of energy that fall off as I connect to
They fall off as you connect. So
them.
explain a little bit about that. And I wanted to ask you about how some of this soul healing work may be different than other things you've done in the past or what you've been exposed to. What is really happening as you understand it? What is different here?
So what is different here? And it gets back to your statement at the very beginning of this call.
Okay.
It's time. It's time for the ascension
Yeah.
in rapid form. And this is what I'm here for, billions of people. And I'm not the only one. But my job is to work with the energy of individuals to one, give them a miracle. And a miracle is defined as a positive experience without a logical explanation. I just want everyone to understand that foundational
Man, I love
concept.
that. Say that again, Ken. It's like it's got to be like on my wall. A miracle is what?
It is nothing more than a positive experience without a logical explanation.
Wow.
When you receive that miracle, you're going to be like, oh my God, what just happened? How did it hurt and not hurt? How can I
Yeah.
talk to them now and I couldn't 5 minutes ago? When this happens, it sets you on your journey. It removes that energy interference, raising your vibration to give you access to more of you. Not only that, but there's a ripple effect. What happens when you walk into that room and you see that grumpy person? We all kind of get a little grumpy. Well, the same thing happens. When you raise your frequency, remove the interference, you're actually impacting all of those people around you.
Mm.
So this is what I'm here for. The another way to describe me is like the heavy machinery. I will come in and pull all of that, well, that comes in layers, pull off massive amounts of that energy interference so you can accelerate your own process.
Amazing. All right, we're gonna keep going. A lot of one person said literally that's the best definition of a miracle I've ever heard. I agree. I've written it down. I mean, I'm blown away, and I think this is what we're gonna set the tone for today because we're gonna get things coming in, of course, from Brilliant Ken, but from all these other collective, right? Collective energies, wisdoms that are going to come in. Now, I want to ask you about ancestral and past life energy. How does this stuff affect the energy field, or does it at all? Right? Does the collective kind of share with us some wisdom about that?
But we will say it absolutely impacts everything you're doing. You need to recognize that as a human, you are here down in these lower vibrational frequencies to release that trauma. This is the golden opportunity for all those past lives and also those ET off-planet past lives to pull that energy through you because you are designed to do that. This is the ascension. We hope that answered the question.
Yes. Yeah. Thank
So
you.
that's them, and it's hard to tell the difference between them and me sometimes.
Yeah, I could definitely tell a little bit of the difference there on that time, right? So it's very
It's hard.
interesting. Send in your questions. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen happen. And again, I want to be clear, we're not offering medical advice, treatment, or guidance. Spirit always does the energy shifting. What have you seen, and what are some of the things that have come forward as you've worked with people in this arena?
So, you know, it's interesting the things that I see because I see them from a very different perspective. Meaning, and I'm going to share some beautiful examples with you in just a moment. But for me, if somebody doesn't walk away with that aha moment,
Hmm.
then I'm like, what happened? Because it happens all the time. But I got to tell you, recently, there was this amazing gentleman, Joe. He was probably in his late 60s, and he had 25 years of diabetes that had wrecked his bone system, right? And he had nerve damage from it. He had cancer also in the spine. So they ended up doing a lot of what is that, the chemotherapy or the radiation, whatever
Hmm.
it was. He ended up with permanent nerve damage, right? And he was at a 45, he was telling me he was at a 45-degree slump. He was unable to walk without a walker or an assist, right? He had one bucket list item,
Mm.
and that was to go to South Africa for 16 days on a cruise. Well, he seen me about 2 weeks before he left. Now, in his session was 30 minutes.
Okay.
Within the first 10 minutes, the pain was gone.
Mm.
And within the next 5 minutes, he was no longer using the walker. His posture had not completely restored, but he was bending over and touching his toes, something he hadn't done in years. Gone. He wrote me. He said, "Listen," he says, "I was pain-free without assistance the entire cruise." This is his life. I see these things all the time, but I don't ever get that feedback necessarily. But it was an incredible experience. I had another woman, I think her name was Jamie. So Jamie comes to me and she's late 20s and she's really fit and she owns a conscious health company or beauty company, Conscious Products, and she comes in with her sheet of paper and she says, "These are the things I like. More connection to spirit, more of my gifts." And I said,
Yep.
"We can do all of these things, but what's going on in your physical body?"
Hmm.
She thought about that. She says, "I can't bend my knees." Now, this was an in-person session. I'm like, "What do you mean?" She says, "Since the age of 3, I can't bend my knees." So I'm like, "Will you show me?" So she stands up and she goes down to squat to bend her knees. She only gets about 6 inches from a standing position. I'm like, okay. So I had to sit back down 45 seconds. I had her stand back up and she went all the way down to the ground, totally busted out in tears. We removed those energetic blocks in her life. I had
Wow.
another woman. She was 25 or so, paramedic. And she was diagnosed with brain cancer, an aggressive brain cancer and a brain tumor. They gave her months to live. There's no way to operate on this, right? It was it. It was just a sentence. And she ended up in my path. And I did one session on her. She had her MRI 2 days later, and she came back with the diagnosis of NED, no evidence of disease.
Wow.
Every 2 months, she has to have an MRI the rest of her life.
Hmm.
It's been 5 years. She still has, it's still there. No, there's no treatment. It does not come back. So, things change. I had another woman, I think her name was Christy, another in-person session. She's 60-ish or so, and she comes in and her friend's assisting her, right? And she's doing that feet shuffle thing just a little bit. And it turns out she has neuropathy and pain in the legs and the feet. She actually can't feel where her feet are at. So she has no balance.
Yeah.
And her life is just without assistance, she goes nowhere. So she sits in the chair and she's in tears. And I do a session with her. And her session was also about 30 minutes or so. And 15 minutes into it, I'm like, I need you to stand up now and walk. And sure enough, she did. And not only did she walk unassisted, but her stride started and she's bawling and she's running around. I'm like, I need you to sit back down. We have more work to do. She's like, no, no, no. I don't want to. I want to. So I follow her occasionally on social media, and she's now a full-time real estate agent with no more problems. All that neuropathy and the pain in the feet are gone. These are just some of the stories.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I don't know what's going to happen. It's not like I sit down and say, "Here's the thing."
Yeah.
It just happens for these folks. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's like with some of those stories, I always say like we don't know where spirit is going to realign. So with spirit always does, the realignment, the soul healing. So just be advised, you show up and then you allow it to do the work and then we see where it ends up. So very amazing stuff, Ken. And one of the things that I've been really trying to understand about what you tap into is a little bit of this energy of what you've called the library. What is the library? What does that have to do with maybe our path or those blockages? I think you call it the library of creation, or that's what's been shared with you.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's it's a little mind-blowing for me even. Like
Okay.
I'm still trying it's so as I continue to increase in my frequency,
Okay.
more and more unfolds. So think of the library of the creation as not only a record of everything that's ever existed in all universes, there's a library of creation in every universe. But it
Okay.
actually contains the Akashic records. It contains the galactic Akashic records. It contains all of the knowledge from all of the species. And the way my team says it, like, listen, when, ET species X decides they want to do genetic experiments and do things, and we do this in a
Mhm.
very positive way, by the way, they're actually tapping in to the library of creation to pull the things that they need for creation.
So this is
Everything is
way
in there.
beyond the Akashic
Oh
records and all
yeah,
that stuff. This is like the hall of like inception of all like
everything's there.
reality of everything. Okay. Yeah, keep
Now,
going.
now
Sorry to
to,
interrupt. I'm just
no, no, I mean it's really, and I'm still trying to grasp, but they
yeah.
talk to me all the time about it, and so understand this that you're able to use the library of creation to do the work that I do.
Oh,
And
really?
we'll talk
Okay.
about that a little later in
Okay.
some of those things that were the gifts and offerings.
Wow.
So the idea of you going into the library to say, show me all of the past lives that are attached to the shoulder, making it ill. They'll all show up at once
Right.
and allows you to remove all of them at once. It's a way to do that heavy lifting right now.
You're saying that we don't necessarily have to be you to be able to do some of this work that anybody, no matter how many times they've tried, if you get to the right source or wisdom or
Mhm.
point of understanding, like this is opening up for everyone. Is that what I'm hearing?
Everybody. Humanity
Wow.
has now reached a point in their evolution, in the ascension process, where everything's happening rapidly. New tools are coming in, not just from me, but from other practitioners across the
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
right? This is the new tool that the divine says, welcome to the new tool. And now it's being shared with the world.
Wow. It kind of reminds me of like the first time I logged into the internet in 1996, like one guy had AOL online or whatever it was, Netscape, and then another guy had it in another office, and soon everybody was connected into it. And it's kind of what this reminds me of is
Hmm.
like it's starting to open source. So for someone that let's say has been trying to shift something in their life, an emotion, a trauma, maybe a situation in the body, why is it that a lot of times this doesn't happen? What are you being shown that maybe is the sticking point, or maybe that thing that needs to be retuned so that the thousand times of trying actually shifts one time, or maybe the next time?
So we all know about the concept of the onion, right? Everything
Yes.
in
Keep
layers, right?
peeling the onion, right?
Keep peeling the onion. You're going to go to your best favorite practitioner of whatever modality, and they're going to pull off one or two things. And then you're like, oh, it's great. Oh my gosh, it's back again, over and over. And what I have found is a couple things. One, not only is the condition you're trying to, we'll call it solve for a moment or resolve,
Mm-hmm.
onion, But I'm also finding that once other things in the body, outside of the body, in your field say, oh, look, there's a door open. The guy just healed his shoulder, right? Let's going to go back to that area because we know he's going to pay attention to and do something with it. So these energies, these past lives, these ancestors, and it goes deep. They showed me some amazing things this week I'll share in a second. But as these things realize there's an exit point, that thing that you're trying to solve, they're like, we're showing back up. And you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I got that taken care of. There's exit points in the body for the energy. And it's just they're all cramming up, saying, hey, I want to go out. But now it gets even deeper. So not only are we talking about the ancestors that are attached to I love picking on the shoulder, by the way, it's just a fun thing. But attached to the shoulder. Now they have me going into the solar plexus,
Hmm.
shooting out through the tunnels or the wormholes in the solar plexus to other energies that are outside our normal idea of past lives or ancestors or these other energies. We are attached to many more things that have a human definition or don't have a human definition. These energies are also, we use the word contracted, we will say these energies are also designed to come through the human body, through the solar plexus, and reach out. He'll tell you about it, the lady the other day in just a moment, please. Okay, so I had a lady the other day. I know. I had a lady the other day, and I'm working on her, and I didn't tell her this, but I saw a shipping container, you know those big shipping containers,
I
all
do.
full of childhood conditions, trauma, and we'll let you fill in the blanks with that. And I talked to her a day or two later, and I said, "Listen, I saw that thing." She says, "Oh my God, that explains it. It wasn't her trauma. Her system was designed to pull in the trauma from others to be released through the solar plexus and out through her heart." So these are the things that aren't typically taught or made aware of in some of the current practices. So they show me this stuff all the time. So it's just, yeah, every couple of weeks there's a new level of awareness that comes through, and that was 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Amazing. And I got to say, we're getting a lot of people feeling some very powerful energies. Eden says, my body, I am buzzing listening to Ken. Wow. Another person, now I know why I joined this Zoom call in the first place. Yeah, I agree. Another person said, wow, thank you so much. This is incredible. Feeling shifts already. What I want to do, if anyone's watching this on any of the social sites, we're going to cut the live stream. If you want to get the full video, go to uwealthrevolution.com/Ken Ken 29, and you're going to get it, or just go to You Wealth Revolution. So, Ken, as we go into this next question, one of the things I want to ask you about is there's going to be people that say, I've tried everything, or maybe my situation is different, or maybe this lifetime I'm meant to carry this burden and I'm not here to let that go, or it's been in my family for so long. What have you seen with people that have things just have been lingering? And what happens? What happens when they get into this new space that you're talking about, this new set of energies?